personal views and opinions expressed by our podcast guests are their own and are not legal advice or official statements by their organizations. Hello, my name is Debbie Reynolds. They call me the Data Diva. This is the Data Diva Talk Privacy Podcast, where we discuss data privacy issues with industry leaders around the world with information that businesses need to know now. I have a special guest on the show, all the way from Japan, Hitoshi Kokumai, who is the founder and chief architect of Mnemonic Identity Solutions Limited. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for giving me a chance to talk with you about the defense of privacy by our solution, that is the identity assurance by our own volition and the memory. I would like to emphasize the power and the value of having ourselves authenticated by our volition and the memory, not by what we possess or not by what we look like.
Right. Well, before we start on that, I would love for people to get to know you and sort of what your interest has been in privacy and why you decided to start Mnemonic Identity Solutions Limited.
When we started this business, our aim is to provide the solutions of identity assurance, which is fully compatible and promote, enhance, advance the values of democracy. It's the most important factor in our business. We need to make money in order to sustain the business, but we are not doing business for making money. We need the money to do the business for progressing the value of democracy in view of the identity assurance or identity authentication or digital identity. And the value of democracy could be quickly eroded if we rely on the authentication methods which doesn't involve our volition and the memory. Imagine what would happen if your identity is authenticated while you are unconscious, or while you are asleep, or while you are away. Your civil rights are respected, or where your identity is authenticated against your will. Could you believe that you live in a democratic society? The principle that our identity must be authenticated while our volition is involved. It's a very basic principle of democracy. And unfortunately, we are now witnessing that this principle is being eroded by many people who promote the authentication method that can be achieved without having our volition and the memory confirmed. We are now in very perilous situation. And where our identity is authenticated while we are unconscious, do you believe that our privacy can ever be protected? It can never happen. Where privacy must be protected, our identity must be authenticated involving our volition and the memory. This is the first message I would like to convey to our viewers.
You and I have been connected on LinkedIn for a number of years. I know a bit about some of the things you told me. I would love for you to tell your story about how I know you work with the Ministry of Defense, I believe, in Japan, correct?
Yes.
About password solutions, and sort of talk about that story and that success story with you.
In order to get to that story, I would like to talk how we got there. We didn't jump to the military use just after thinking about the value of democracy. It was a long history. I invented this solution that we call expanded password system at the beginning of 2000. So it's now, I've been working on this project for 21 years. In this quickly changing world of information technology, someone who has been pursuing the same aim for 20 years may now look like a fossil. That the trend in information technology is changing every couple of years. New ideas come up and disappear in a couple of years. Now I've been working on this for 21 years. So many of my friends call me just crazy. You don't have something else to do? They ask me. And I answer, this is my vocation. This is my calling. All my life, it was training and rehearsal for this particular project. I now believe that I was born to do this project. Well, back in 2001, I was talking with a patent attorney about the possible use of two-dimensional code, something like QR code. And that was the beginning of our journey going to the military use. At the time, I was thinking about putting a long password into two-dimensional code. And many people still pursuing that idea. But I threw it away within a few days because what is put into a 2D code and printed on something or stored on something could be lost and stolen. Then that's the end of the story. And after try and error in my brain, in my thought experiments, I arrived at the idea of making use of pictures, images of our own episodic memory. Now, if we listen to logic, once we agree to the principle that our identity must be authenticated while we are conscious and while our volition and the memory are involved, we now come to agree that secret credential is indispensable. Textured passwords have been the secret credentials for many decades. And it worked well when we had only one or two accounts to protect. But nowadays, we have dozens of accounts to protect for business. and many more dozens of accounts to protect in our private life. Textual password no longer help us as it had. Now we have two propositions. Secret credentials are indispensable, while text passwords are insufficient. Then we can naturally get led to assume that we should look at non-text credentials. Non-text credentials, you could think of using images. But images, you now struggle to remember, can evaporate quickly if we use the pictures for dozens of different accounts. Well, about 1 year after I started to think about this conundrum, one of my friends who learned psychology suggested to me that I should look at the power and the value of our autobiographic memory, especially episodic memory, that had been acquired years ago and decades ago and solidly inscribed in our brain. Such memory will not evaporate over a couple of years. If we use episodic image memory as the secret credential for identity assurance, we should be able to make a quantum leap to solve the conundrum that we need a secret credential, and yet textual passwords are not sufficient. And we started to promote this concept, raise the money in Japan, and come up with a software product, and made some commercial implementation. One of them was our military, who was interested in our solution in view of the nature of our image memory, especially episodic memory, that will enable us to come up with the authentication that can stand the very stressful situation or panicky situation on the battleground field, on the battlefield. You see that on the battleground, people are under very stressful situation or panic situation. A strong password that you managed to remember could easily evaporate or got confused, particularly when soldiers have to manage multiple passwords. Our solution solves this conundrum. People who are under stress station can easily identify or recognize the images of their own episodic memory. For instance, the pictures of toys and dolls and the dogs and the cats that you or your children used to love many years would jump into your eye, even when you are in panic, or even when you are heavily drunk. It's the same. or even when we get aged and our recognition capability is weak, those pictures, images of our episodic memory would jump into our eye. We don't have to look for them. They would jump into our eye because of the strong emotion those images carry. So by making use of our own episodic image memory, we are able to have our identity authenticated very reliably under any circumstances, even when we have many numbers, many accounts to protect. Because when we allocate different sets of images to different accounts, each account has different set of images for authentication. When we look at those different sets of images, those images tell us what pictures are registered as our passwords. So we cannot get lost or we cannot get confused because I have two different difficulties. One is passwords themselves are hard to remember, but somehow some bright people can remember very hard to remember password. But even those people have difficulty in remember the correspondence between the accounts and the passwords. You remember 5, 6 strong passwords, but are you sure that which passwords are for which accounts? So even those people who are bright enough to remember very strong passwords have to rely on a memo in many cases. And nowadays, we need to make an access outside our homes and offices. It means we have to carry around a memo outdoor in many cases, very vulnerable to physical stealth. And our solution will relieve us from not only the burden of remembering how to remember passwords, but also the burden of remembering the correspondence between the accounts and the passwords. And those factors are behind why our solutions was picked up by our military in 2013. And it has been used for 8 years now going to 90 years. And the number of licenses has increased tenfold from year 2013 till now. So I'm confident they are not unhappy with our solution.
How do the images get into the system for the episodic memory to work?
When I first thought of using images for identity authentication 21, 22 years ago, many people laughed at me because it takes time. It costs a lot because in those days, memories were expensive, communications were slow, bandwidth narrow. But very fortunately, in 2001 or 2002, some Japanese phone manufacturers came up with the idea of embedding a small digital camera on the on a mobile phone. Then it boomed. Communications companies tried to make the bandwidth wider to accommodate the flow of pictures. And the situation changed very quickly. Nowadays, everybody has a digital camera with them as a mobile phone. And as soon as they take pictures, they upload the picture onto the cloud or onto the SNS. Now, people who are even older than I have no difficulty in handling images and exchange them with their grandchildren, friends. So, and now not only computers, but the phones are capable of handling a huge volume of pictures instantly. And the problem we had 20 years ago are gone altogether. And at the same time, that the understanding of our psychology, our brain, the brain science has advanced drastically over the last 2 decades. And it strongly endorses of our understanding of how our memory, what we assumed was true 20 years ago, is now confirmed more clearly as is. So to combine the technology and psychology or brain science was not wrong. It was the last 20 years have proven that our approach was correct. Our choice was correct. And now we can communicate. I'm talking with you real time, even though you are just across the globe. This means that the bad guys can attack my accounts 24 hours a day from every corner of the globe. So our accounts need protection. And every citizen is now connected to the global network, means every citizen can be attacked by bad guys. And recently, the tech guys have proven that our privacy. So nowadays, nobody can escape from the guys who are trying to have an access to our privacy. So we need the universal, global method of protecting privacy by way of reliable identity authentication. Reliable means identity authentication by our volition and the memory. Without involving our volition and the memory, it cannot be called reliable. we can make use of our episodic image memory in addition to our ability of recalling text passwords. We don't have to throw away anything. We don't think of this or not, this or that. We think of this and that. We should be able to use everything that is available to us.
That's great. Wow. That's really interesting. I saw that you had posted an article or post on LinkedIn talking about quantum computing and passwords. So a lot of people are concerned about quantum computing when it comes about and how that will impact passwords. So what are your thoughts about that?
Yes. Here, by password, I mean secret credential symbolizing our volition and the memory. And so here, I don't just mean the text password by password. I mean our volition and the memory as a whole by the word password. And like many other people, I'm very concerned about the possible negative, destructive effects of artificial intelligence and quantum computing. And that is certainly double-edged. It can help us and it can hurt us, or it can even kill us. And if we want artificial intelligence and quantum computing to help us, not hurt us, we should place them under our control. We should not see them place us under their control. And we need the identity assurance by our own volition and the memory as the minimal necessary condition to see it happen. If we give up the identity assurance by our own volition and memory, machines will soon be able to place us under their control. Our memory, particularly our own autobiographic memory and episodic memory, which is just unique to me and you, nobody else shares my episodic memory. Even my wife, even my daughter, even my colleagues don't share my episodic memory. It's my own. It's unique to me. Machines don't have an access to it. Artificial intelligence and the quantum computing or the likes of them, however clever they may become, they will never be able to have an access to our memory, particularly our episodic memory, and our volition that is driven by our emotion-enhanced episodic memory. So it's the point of my article of password, the quantum computing and the password authentication. Without the identity assurance involving our volition and memory, we would probably be unable to keep artificial intelligence and the quantum computing and something coming up in those categories will place us under their control. It's a nightmare I think many people share with me.
Oh yeah, I absolutely do. I think I don't know, maybe it's because of movies that people think that machines are smarter than humans, and I don't think that that's true. Also, I think that we can't abdicate our responsibility as humans to computers and AI. So we have to make the final call, the final judgment, and we can't defer those decisions to computers and computing. So tell me what right now or what in the future is concerning you about privacy?
Yeah, machine place us under control. And when machines can authenticate us while we are asleep or while we are unconscious, where can there be our privacy? No, in such a situation, there would be no such thing as our privacy.
Right.
So if people want to defend their privacy, as I like, as I want to defend my privacy, our identity authentication must involve our position and the memory. And we believe we are able to provide the solution to the global citizens with our record of some successful implementation in Japan. What I am talking about is not the hypothesis. It was actually implemented and helped the people in a very demanding environment for a very demanding use case.
Right. So a lot of innovations that we're seeing in modern life now have been tested in sort of military. So it's really cool to see that your solution has sort of stood up to that rigor and is a way of thinking differently and also taking advantage of things that are unique to individuals and not pretending that people are different than they are. So, an example, and this is one that I'm sure that you shared or you touched on a bit. It's hard to remember like very complex passwords, right? So, and it's hard. It's hard for most people to remember that. So then, why give someone a complex password that they can't remember when you can find something else that, like you said, instead of trying to recall, they're just remembering, right?
I don't think we can sell our products to the people who boast their ability to remember very strong passwords for many different accounts without the help of memos. I would be happy if the people who are not certain about their such ability help themselves with our software. And by the way, we are now on the way of coming up with a new breed of password manager powered by our episodic memory. And we are thinking of coming up with 3 different versions, consumer versions, business versions, and professional version. And the professional means the people who have the key under their control for nuclear bomb or atomic plants or anyway, whose passwords cannot be lost. And for business people, I mean, most of the people in office or at the plants. And the consumers, everybody who need to protect their personal accounts. And we are going to offer the consumer version free of charge so that everybody on the globe can protect then with a password manager that can be used in multiple ways. A big problem of password management is that it's creating a single point of failure. It's like putting all the eggs in a single basket. If a password manager is compromised, it's the end of the world for that person.
Mm-hmm.
So even when we use a password manager, we should be able to use multiple numbers of password managers so that in order not to create a single point of failure. Say, this password management module for this category of accounts, that password manager for that category of accounts. And because by using episodic memory, we can manage as many numbers of accounts as we like. That means assume that you have 100 accounts and passwords to protect. You can separate them into 10 categories, and 10 categories will be defended by 10 different password managers with 10 different strong and easy to recognize passwords. Then we can make a good balance between the security and the convenience. We always look at the issues from and point of view.
Right.
We can use this and that, not this or not that.
Right.
So we should make use of all the resources we have and they have.
Very good. Very good. Well, so if it were your wish, Hitoshi, for privacy, what would be your wish for privacy anywhere in the world, whether it be technology, law, anything?
My knowledge is not good enough to talk something very definitively, but I'm looking to the future of decentralized identity. Some people call it self-sovereign identity. From that viewpoint, I'm interested in the future development of blockchain and the likes of blockchain that doesn't consume too much electricity.
Right.
So eco-friendly the likes of blockchain that is much more eco-friendly. That's what I am anxious to see happen.
Well, that's cool. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that before. So sustainable, decentralized identity systems, right?
Yes, the central management is convenient, but in view of confidentiality, it's always vulnerable. It's put all the eggs in a single basket.
I agree. Oh my goodness. Well, this was so great. I'm so glad we were able to meet finally. We've been talking for a couple of years on LinkedIn. And thank you for putting out really great content and for being able to, share your knowledge. This is fascinating. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me. I really enjoyed it. Enjoyed the conversation with you. Thank you very much.